Welcome to Net Friending Social Time for Special Needs Moms with yours truly, April 2.0. And with me tonight is my confidant, co host, and the voice of Net Friending, Roy Montero. Hello, Roy.
Hello, April. And so tonight, with our um, newest of shows, we've had several shows, and we're going to continue to have several shows. But this one is all about the social time for special needs moms and people with autism and/or special needs. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We want to go lowest common denominator, and so we're going with autism moms. But that's not what our lower third says here. So first thing I want to do tonight is I want to go back in time 4 years ago when April and I first met, and I realized, what? Special needs? You're a special needs mom? What's that? Oh, you're an autism mom. Wow. Autism. Is that Rain Man? Yes, no, maybe so. And she and I started to do, um, first off, a meet and greet because she saw me talking with somebody as a guest in a live stream, and she said, "Hey, Roy Montero, we're separated at birth." April, what did you mean? Why did you say that? Let's catch people up to speed there, and then we'll play a little clip.
That Roy guy was all over the interwebs, well, contained in this little platform called Blab, talking about relationships and the truth about relationships. And I was like, he speaks the things that I think, but that I don't know just yet how to articulate. And I can learn a lot from that guy. And I want to befriend him, but I didn't know how because I was okay. I wasn't shy, maybe a little shy, but more so feeling inferior to pretty much just about anybody who crossed my path. And I didn't know how to start a conversation, at least not voice to voice. I did great in text because I didn't have to be concerned if my right eye was bigger than my left eye or if my third hair was out of place out of the, all that, the things that we think about when we're in conversation with somebody physically. But I thought the best way to get on Roy's radar is to say, Roy Montero, I think we were separated at birth. And then poof, that was the start of this, all of this. Do you want to interject?
Yeah, I want to say that a lot of people are being told by their parents, "Hey, Teresa, love that." Let's address that really quick before I put up my lower third. So Teresa says, April,
Facebook is her social time. It has connected her to a wonderful autism community.
so we love that. We don't exactly know what that means, but please do continue to share with us what you're thinking, what you're feeling as I unpack what community actually means for me and what it now means for April. So for those of you who were told by your parents or others, hey, go out and make friends, like when you were a kid, or even now as an adult, go make friends. I'm a stickler for words. Words are very empowering. They can also be very disempowering. You can't make a friend. I don't care what you do. You can't make a friend. You don't have that kind of power. But you do have the kind of power to be a friend. And that's what I want to mention over and over during our session tonight is please, when you show up and meet another human being, or even the people that you already know as acquaintances on your way to friendship, please look at that stage as the befriending stage. This is something that I shared with April as soon as I met her 4 years ago. I said, I can't make you my friend. You can't make me your friend. Because if you want me to be your friend and you want to make me your friend and I don't want to be your friend, there isn't anything you can do to make me your friend. And that's where I think where a lot of people go wrong because they think, oh my goodness, I thought we were friends. And I don't know if I have the clip handy or not, but I might have it for next week. So one of the ladies, um, hey, Archer, welcome, my friend, welcome. Oh, wait, is Archer my friend? I don't know.
I don't
We'll
know. You
find
might
out.
want to ask him. I think
But
Archer's my friend.
well, let's find out. So, Archer, do you see April as your friend? Yes or no? We'll just go with April for right now, because that's something that we'd like to ask people. Should ask people, because one of the ladies in a community that had another lady on her show, and they were communicating probably in text and this, that, and the other thing, and she referred to her as her friend, and the other lady said, "Whoa, wait a second, we're not friends," and that kind of shocked her because I don't know. I don't think Facebook went out to intentionally butcher the word friend, but a friend, in my book, April, you can help me with your definition. Here's my definition of a friend. So let's say I'm out in a restaurant with a friend or with you, April, and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, Roy, how you doing?" And I say, "Oh, would you like to have a seat? Come on, eat with us. Have a drink with us." That would be my definition of a friend. If they come up to me and say, "Hey, hi, Roy. Uh, am I intruding? Can I take a seat? Can I have a drink? Can I eat with you?" Um, no, thank you. Yeah, no, we're hi, shake your hand, and yeah. So a friend is somebody that I will break bread with, whether invited or not invited.
Okay, but so what does that look like in the virtual environment, Mr. Roy?
Same thing here. Like, hey, Roy, can I take a seat? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna like mess up my show or if you're gonna enhance it or.
You
But I'm the
know,
kind.
I don't, after all of these years, I don't even know that I know your definition of friendship. And even after you just shared what you shared, I still am not quite sure that I would know if I was your friend what the
Okay,
way to describe.
so I would take it one step further into the virtual world and say, have a seat with me, and if you can have a conversation with me, and I don't get bored, within like a few minutes, then I consider you April. If I'm just meeting you and you don't bore me, then I'm in the befriending stage with you. If you take a seat and you bore me within 5 minutes, it's like thanks, but no thanks, because we don't have a chance. You do not fit, so you will not commit. And unless you, whoever you are willing to make a new decision about engaging with me in the befriending stage, because I'm not mediocre. I don't want mediocre people. If someone says, "How you doing?" right? Unless you're really interested, I think you should change that to just hi or hello. Because if you say how you doing, and I say how you doing,
How you doing? Yeah.
and somebody just says fine, it's like, you know, I there's places where I really want to know how you're doing, but if I first meet you, that's like I really don't have any reference or I don't have any kind of baseline to know to ask you how you're doing because maybe I don't want to know how you're doing, so I don't ask you. I just say hi, welcome, take a seat, let's have a discussion. So tell me a little bit about you, and do it in a minute or less.
Okay, but like for instance, Caitlin or Carolyn or Teresa or Hey Archer, they're going to have their own definitions for what a friend is for them.
Correct.
So when they meet somebody, how would you recommend that they let somebody know when they're first meeting them that they are just in the befriending stage? Like what's the I guess the least awkward way to do that, because you don't want to walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm just meeting you, so please know that you and I are just now in the befriending stage," because that would just seem kind of weird. And how do you lay out for somebody you're just meeting what it is that you're looking for in another person? Because this is important when it comes to social media, especially because there's this casual friend request button thing going on, and people just hit the friend request button. The other person, if they choose to accept, they just kind of hang out on each other's friendship wall, silently stalk each other's posts, maybe give a thumbs up. How do you deepen relationships online, Roy Montero?
I ask you questions that you may not be aware of. And how you respond or react will tell me within 15 minutes if I want to invest another 15 minutes or 15 hours or 15 years with you. I know this because this is how I show up in the world. I'm here to befriend people who want to befriend me during their journey, which overlaps with my journey. If it doesn't, if your journey is taking me away from my journey, then we have no business being together as friends, acquaintances, or anything like that. And I will say thank you, but no thank you. And you can only do that in voice or video. You can't do that in text. I get no kind of vibe. I get no kind of chemicals going on in my, no dopamine, none of those amazing chemicals that allow us to bond because we're asking each other the right questions. I want to get into what has been said here so far. I like what Archer said. He says, April.
Of course, I'm weird. Everyone starts as a friend. You're muted.
Sorry. So, Archer, if you want to join us in a seat, that'd be awesome. You can even go audio like I am. You just upload your profile picture, and you can go audio if you're not camera ready or don't want to be on camera, and really unpack that, because all we can do is just, April and I will unpack that, and then you can tell us in text whether we're right or wrong. So he says, I'm weird. So I think that's a reference to I'm not status quo. Is that true? Yes or no? And then he says, everyone starts as a friend, implying that as soon as he realizes, oh, you're not actually a friend, now I'm going to make a new decision and no longer see you as a friend when I started off seeing you as a friend. Is that also true? Because if that's what you mean, then that's awesome. So then Archer's requirement for a friend is that you just be able to fog up a mirror, right?
Right.
So he goes on to say it's up to the person to work backwards. Not sure what that means.
I don't.
If you start with a friend, you see the other person as a friend. They may not see you as a friend, and then to work backwards. Like if you want to lose my seeing you as a friend, then I think that's what he means. Not sure. Saying hi. Saying hi. I like what Teresa says here.
By social time, I like doing air quotes because it's fun. I feel so, yeah. By social time, I don't know.
It is fun.
It gives me an opportunity to show my personality and my animation, and I like
absolutely, and your ability to TED Talk it, because there's a lot of hand movements.
By social time, it means to Teresa that she doesn't do much face-to-face interaction. So social network like Facebook is her social time.
Let's talk about that for just a second. So I believe that a lot of people are doing that now these days, that they don't have the ability to do face-to-face, as she said, belly to belly, because of whatever. Maybe the culture has shifted. I know it has for a lot of younger people because that's what they grew up with. That's how they started their social interaction is online. You know, they were 5, they were 10, they were 15, and they talk through text more than anything else. So they've built that rapport. And if they were face-to-face, belly-to-belly, they may not know how to behave, sort of, kind of. That's what I'm thinking. And then for us older folks who realized that there was a world before the internet, and we grew up in elementary school, high school, college, without the internet, and we know how to build relationships belly to belly, maybe we decide to do it this way because geography. It's like, oh, there ain't no like happy people in my street, on my street, in my town, and I can't get out much. So they've built relationships online in various communities, and they could be halfway around the world. Like I have a relationship with Elise. She's exactly halfway around the world. When it's 12 o'clock noon here, it's 12 o'clock midnight there. She's in Western Australia. So I think that's what Teresa was saying. So Teresa, if that's not the case, then let us know. Um, Rachel says,
When she sends someone a friend request, oh darn, she didn't have quotes. When she sends someone a friend request, she says, "Hello, my friend. My name is Rachel. I have autism and ADHD. I love Disney, and we could be friends. If you don't want to be friends, I'm okay with that."
nice. I mean, that she's being honest, she's being open, she's being real. It's coming up front. She's not being an imaginary person by image managing her persona. It's like, oh, how do I need to show up for people who don't know me? I'll show up fake. Fake it till you make it. Or, no, I'm going to let them know I'm this or that. No, I love what she says. It's like, if you don't want to be friends with me, I'm okay with that. It's like, you don't have to be my friend. Not everybody that sends me a friend request is request worthy. Archer says, Roy hit it spot on. So we do this thing called Blab. We all do it. We assess people. We don't judge people. We assess people. We say, based on my experience and knowledge and how that person shows up in the world for me, here's what I think they believe because of their behavior that I see. So, Archer, thank you for that. Teresa says, I'm 50, April.
And though I don't have an official diagnosis, I have a lot of signs of Asperger's and struggle with socially fitting in.
Ooh, so I'm going to challenge you, Teresa.
As I knew he would.
So here's what I'm challenging. One, she doesn't have an official diagnosis, which means she has an unofficial diagnosis, which means it's either right or it could still be wrong. It's like this hasn't been set in stone. So that is yet to be determined. She has a lot of the signs, but she doesn't have every sign to make it official. And then she struggles with socially fitting in. So I think the struggle is that she thinks the other person thinks, or the other persons think, that she has to act a certain way in order for her to fit in, rather than her being herself. And Teresa, do you really want to fit in with people who don't fit with you, right? Because don't you see the words that I'm using? They're so disempowering. You want to fit in with people that want you to be a different fit.
Yeah, they're not a fit. And so if the issue was like maybe something like I struggle with making eye contact, I struggle with how to communicate with people the Teresa way. If it was anything that was coming from your point of view that you were actually struggling with, I would say I can understand that those are things that you could work on. But when you say fitting in, you're automatically putting that focus on the other people and saying you have to, like Roy said, be a certain way in order to fit in with however they see you or that they want to see you. And so if that's the case, then you are hanging out, Teresa, with the wrong people. Which goes back to what you were saying before about, wasn't that one? Maybe it was that one. No, this one. That you've connected to a wonderful autism community. So I would have to ask you, which would be so much easier if you would jump in a seat with us, but you don't have to fit in with what I want you to do. You be you. Is that wonderful autism community accepting of you for who you are, or with that wonderful autism community, do you struggle to be around them because you have to wear a mask, so to speak, to hide this struggle that you're having? Like, are you showing up as somebody you're not so that you will be accepted by that wonderful autism community? That's my question. Did she answer it? But she said even in her own family, she feels like an outsider.
Ah, okay. So more insight. Now, new information. So now we can make a better decision, a newer decision. Um, so the way you see a person is the way you treat that person. So she feels this from the people in her own family. So the people in her own family treat her as an outsider because they see her as an outsider. Teresa, is that true?
And while we wait, Caitlin says, Amen. You don't need to impersonate someone to fit in. I had to learn that the hard way. Yeah, me too. Me too.
And since I'm the person that I am, hold that up there.
Oh,
So since I'm a person who likes to be blunt and share my insight with people, my knowledge, my wisdom, all of that, Caitlin, uh, if you could and would like to be known by people who don't know your name, then you should add your name because for the people in my target audience, they would not cozy up to Make It Blue, a Disney adventure. Hey, Make It Blue, a Disney adventure. I want to cozy up to you tonight. Can we like have a connection here? It's like you're already alienating people from you because you're not including your name. What I would do is put your name up front, first and last name, and then hyphen, Make It Blue, a Disney adventure. Because you see, you got all that space right there still. And if you don't, then whatever is left, use that. But put your first and last name because if people say, oh my goodness, she said something so amazing that I want to find her on social media and I want to, see if we can collaborate or co-create her. I want to give her this amazing offer, but I can't find her. Maybe I could find her under all of that, but people, here's what I know. People don't want to do business with a company. People want to do business with a person. That's why you see all these spoke shrimp on TV and stuff. It's like it's a company, yes, but it has a spokesperson. So I just wanted to point that out for personal branding reasons. And if you're going to do any kind of live streaming and video, you're going to like stop a lot of people, prevent a lot of people from connecting with you because you don't feel approachable. To me, now I'm not saying to them because I don't know them, but to me, if I didn't already know you, you wouldn't feel approachable. But since I'm blunt, I would approach you anyway and then say, why don't you want me to know your name? And then, you tell me your reason, and then I would just say what I said. So it's totally up to you. I'm not your dad. I don't need to tell you what to do. So I'm just sharing that if your personal branding is important to you. Okay, what was up next?
I don't know. Teresa answered your question, whatever it was. I don't remember. That was like 5 minutes ago. Yes, she said. You asked her a question and then you
Yeah, the way you see a person. So her family, within her own family, she feels like an outsider because they see her as an outsider, and therefore they're going to treat her as an outsider. And Teresa, I'm going to pause for emphasis. You're the person, the personality, the persona, the type of person, the archetype, the personality based, bent, all of it. You're the kind of person that April and I are building this community for. Because let me ask you a quick question. We're not your family. We might not even be your friends yet, so to speak. But do you feel from you showing up here in the time that you have over the last few weeks, do you feel that we go, oh, look, Teresa Johnson's here. Let's treat her like an outsider? Have you been doing that? April?
sounded really funny to me because
I haven't been doing that. Have you been doing that?
no, but it's like I'm laughing because there's people who don't say they're doing that, but they treat you that way, and you
That's
feel
right.
that, and
That's right.
especially in the live stream space.
That's right.
Like Caitlin is sitting in the lobby right now in lower deck, and she's not on screen with us, but we can see her. And Roy's including her in the conversation, even though like we can't hear her voice right now.
Correct. Because I love everybody. And even if you don't love me and you want to hate on me and you want to troll me and everything else, because believe me, with the way I speak and show up in the world, there's a lot of people that hate me and want to troll me simply because that was funny. That's funny. See, Teresa's got a great sense of humor. Teresa, I hope within the coming days, weeks, months that you'll take a seat with us, even if it's just to hear your voice, because I think you're amazing. I want to get all this because we have a lot of people here that are interacting. And even if I have something prepared, which I do, to show this, that, and the other thing, I would rather address the people that are here in the comments and coming in. And did Archer say he was going to come in? And you gave him the link, right?
Yeah, on Slack, he said I'll be there in a few.
Okay, sounds awesome. As soon as he comes up, I'll bring the ladies up too. We have two ladies on deck, so to speak, in the green room, Carolyn and Caitlin. They were here 2-3 weeks ago.
All right.
And here they are. And here he is. So let's bring Archer up first, and then we'll bring the ladies up. So Archer, welcome.
Oh, wow, I'm on the show.
Wow. This is like fancy stuff. Y'all, that's
okay.
Archer.
Listen, I'm going to say a few words. I'm going to drop down, and April and Archer are going to do the meet and greet stuff because this is the first time he's been on the show, and I always like to bring people on the show, even if we kind of know them from somewhere else. Kind of go through the meet and greet really quick, like how did you meet? What do we have in common? All that. And our common tribe leader, as I like to say, Archer, is Pat Flynn. So it was because of Pat Flynn, PF. That we know each other and so on and so forth. So first I want to say, hey, brother, nice to know you. Nice to meet you. I'm going to meet more about you through April because April knows more about you and I just be the third wheel here. So just wanted to say that. And April's going to ask you all the pertinent questions so we can get to know you. April?
You dropped the wrong person, Roy.
I dropped the wrong person. Hold on.
Wow.
I have to say, I really, first of all, thanks for having me on. And I'm also liking this because I always wanted to try Streamlabs.
StreamYard.
I said the wrong thing.
Wait, where's the thing?
I'm like, I'm seeing what it's like on the other side, like as a guest on a show.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot. You were asking me for directions and I was like, doesn't he use this? And I forgot you don't use StreamYard.
I'm an eCam person.
Yeah.
But no,
I won't hold it against you. I won't hold that against you.
Okay. No, I'm loving the conversation. It's and just to be sure, you guys are talking specifically. Sorry, my facial hair is a little out of order today. The conversation is about internet friends, correct? Am I understanding it correct?
Well, we was just talking about friendship, online, offline, and how people are communicating with each other, getting to know each other, outreaching, like I've been following you. So we'll go back to what Roy said. Our mutual tribe leader, our overlapping person who's brought us together was Pat Flynn,
right?
Who does the income stream every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And it's on YouTube. So look up the income stream. Every day. What day number was he on today? Like 88, 87, 88?
I think it might even be 89 or something. I missed because I think I missed 2 days live in a row. So I think it's probably 89. Yeah.
Yeah, 89. So that's a lot of days to go consecutively live. And we have built a very tight community through showing up every morning for his streams.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just show up for him and his content. We show up because Pat's pretty freaking awesome. He's a genuine hearted person. And there's a person who goes by many names, Rap and Combat, Earn.
Yeah.
it's confusing because I never know what to call him, but that person created a Slack group at the very early stages of Pat doing his daily income stream. And that Slack community is now just over 100 people strong. And we all show up every morning for the most part, and we greet each other. Hi, how are you? And that's how, hey, Archer, which I feel funny calling you, hey, Archer. All the while I'm thinking, is that really your name?
Very common question.
Is it a secret?
No. So my first name is Steven, but my last name is Archer. So it's just like my dad had the same thing. Like people just naturally call me Archer. Like, and then when I started going to I went to like a military type school, so you just know it as your last name. So then I had all these like subsets of friends that would interlock, and everybody started thinking that was my actual name. So when trying to come up with an Instagram name many moons ago, like one day somebody was just like, hey, Archer. And then I went somewhere else and they were like, oh, hey, Archer. And I was just like, hey, Archer. So that was it.
I love that story.
Yeah. But continue. Sorry.
I thought Archer was literally your first. When you said Steve, I was like taken aback. I wasn't expecting that.
The government name, as they say.
Gotcha. So that's how Hey Archer and I, still sounds weird, have gotten to know each other. But this is the first time that we are connecting audio and video with each other. And so that Correct. Is super cool.
Yeah. No, and that's the, I think you hit the nail on the head a couple streams ago on my stream where you were saying how we inherently don't go somewhere strictly for the information. You, over time, if you're a repeat customer, you could say, you're going because of the person. You're not going for the specific thing. So even, I think somebody wrote in there before about taking a break off of it. It could be a lot because you're always watching and you're trying to learn and you're kind of like, all right, I have to try to like perfect all of this and do whatever. But a lot of times you learn more when you're trying not to learn. So like, you saying something like that, like, you show up for the person, not for the information. I wasn't in any kind of like information like section. I was just streaming and we're just kind of talking randomly, and then bam, you learn something new. And the other thing too is like there's just things in real life that also interject with this. So like, you saying that, just to I guess harp on that one sentence, I was thinking like back in the old days when we used to go to stores and didn't just order online, like there was certain stores I'd go to. Yeah, the old days of like 6 months ago, there were stores I'd go to, and I sometimes would go just because of an associate that was there or employee that was there who was just cool. And I would go and just browse. And if they were there and they wanted to like talk for whatever, then do that. But otherwise, I'm like, you start to think back to moments and you're like, oh yeah, like I kind of do that already in other parts of my life. This all is kind of the same thing, except instead of in person, it's digital.
Yeah. Because for me, I show up every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern if I'm not on a conference call, because I love that connection. And it's the frustrating part for me, though, is the chat because it goes fast. And I just have way too much to say to be able to condense it into, 120 characters?
Yeah.
Or no, it's 200 characters. And that's still not enough for me because you see how much I talk.
So,
Senor Roy in the house.
Yeah, thank you. So we have enough of the backstory, how the two of you met, and how I know you as well, and so on and so forth. I'm not as
know his name now, for real.
Stephen. Yes. So I don't know Stephen as well as April does because April's had more interaction and interaskiveness with.
Can I tell a story real quick?
Yeah, please.
So the other night, I showed up to support who I think might be my new friend, Stephen. And
can I sag?
No.
Real quick question. So Stephen, do you see April as your friend? Yes or no?
Yeah. Oh, so I guess I'll answer because you wanted me to go with more in depth.
Yeah, just say yes or no right now, and then we'll let you unpack it as soon as April's done with her interaction.
So then I say yes.
Okay, you did say yes. Okay. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to be very brave and courageous because he may not see me as a friend yet, but to have all that. Stephen, do you see me as your friend? Yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Right, because you see everybody as your friend. Okay, we'll go into that in a second. He'll unpack. April, continue your story.
So the other night I was going to support him at his live stream because that's what I do. And
Thank you very much, by the way.
You're welcome. And as you see, he comes and supports us. He's been very consistent.
Absolutely, yes. If I had a bell, I'd ring it for you, Stephen. My bell broke. It was a glass bell. Yeah, I'd ring the bell. Yeah, no, you've been very supportive, and I love that. You know, you come for initially people come for the content, right? Because they say content is king. Yeah. I don't say content is king. I say the content provider is king. So no matter how good Stephen's content is, or no matter how good April's content is, I think people eventually come for them more so than for their content. And I think that's what you were saying, Stephen, on why you're coming here and why April goes and supports you. April, continue.
See, when he does that, I lose. So I went to go, and I don't think, by the way, that he came here the very first time because he was interested in finding out about autism. Don't think that that's true, right?
Well, I'm trying to think about the first video I watched. I think the way that it works with a lot of us, like on the income stream, is like if we're in the chats and people are saying like, oh, I have a channel, or like if it's going to be a review, like a lot of times, like I'll go to that channel and subscribe, and I'll skim through it. And I think in your case, it was a like a random live stream we were doing, so that's where I hit subscribe. Or sorry, I just started watching it, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting conversation. I didn't know this like subgroup of YouTube existed, and that's what I was saying on my stream. I was like, me finding your channel kind of opened my head to like the thought that there's these other groups out there, and there's probably millions of groups that talk about a topic that I don't see my day to day, and that's where I'm like, oh, like even like Caitlin's channel, like I saw Caitlin's channel, I was like, oh, I didn't think there was a subgroup of people who just go to Disney World and discuss Disney World and what they like about Disney World, and like that's the niche. So that's how I found you. Was I just randomly subscribed, went through. It was a live stream. I was like, oh, let's see what's going on there, and then go from there.
So let me get this straight. So you had subscribed earlier, and then when we went live, you got a notification, and then you checked it out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So for those of you who don't know, click the subscribe button and then click the bell, and then do all to get notifications. And that's how you can check people out. That's on YouTube. It's a little different on Facebook and LinkedIn on the rest of them. But I like what YouTube does, And then if you miss it, you can go back to the notifications up on top there to any YouTube page, and you'll see everything that you may have missed while you were sleeping and stuff like that. Hey, James.
James says there's great value in social networks and finding like-minded people, but also finding new things to learn.
Exactly.
Yes, because you don't know what you don't know. So I think that Stephen is saying that the conversation wasn't just autism. It was a little bit more than that, and that intrigued him. And so he was blank, and I'll let you fill in the blank, Stephen. Intrigued, you were mesmerized, and you made your second and third trips back because I think you've been here for a few weeks now.
Yeah. No, it's just one of those where
you just dropped him out, or did he?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh.
I think he might have hit the wrong button or something.
He was so excited about being here, he kicked himself out.
So hello to James. Tech review.
My mistake. You know what it was? The done button at the top was bothering me, and I was like, oh, let me get rid of that because it was like cutting off part of April's head, like on my screen. And I hit done, and it just closed out because it's like I'm in, like this opened up through Slack, so it went back to Slack.
Okay. I get it. Yeah, no worries. So the real reason you're here is because you see April as a friend. The conversation was something that was blank for you, intriguing, interesting.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's pretty much because so I do like sales in my real world life, and another thing I like about, it's funny, I was talking about this in a meeting today, because like not everybody in my real job know I do like streaming and all that kind of stuff, or YouTube videos, and I was saying how they're like, oh, why are you so comfortable like in these meetings, and you're asking like really good questions, and I'm like, doing all of this stuff, it just what's the best way to say it? Like my active listening skills, like it helps me like work on that. And I think one of the hardest things for people to do when it comes to active listening is pay attention to something they don't know about or something that they didn't think they had interest in. So in listening to like April's conversation, it was kind of like that, sales training. I was like, oh, this is something I know nothing about, aside from I told you, like I dated somebody who had kids with it, and I worked with somebody who had it, but I don't know things about it. So I was sitting there and I was just like, it's like a learning thing. I was just like, all right, listening, processing. I think I probably wrote a question or something. And then that's what led me to just keep coming back week over week.
But do you think
Nice.
you have to have a little bit of interest in the topic in order for anything being said to really hold you there?
It depends on what you're watching. So in this case, yeah, I had interest because I've, been around people who have, like autism or whatever. And yeah, that is Black Panther behind me on the wall there.
Nice.
So
Good catch. Good catch,
yeah.
Caitlin.
So I, like I said, I dated somebody who had 2 kids who had it. And then my boss, I think he had it. Like it wasn't like, I don't know like what the levels are or whatever. It was like, it was enough where I was like, something's kind of like, as we're talking, I feel like we're failing to communicate. So after listening to some of these streams, I'm like, and hearing how you're talking about like dealing with people in your lives, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And like understanding the thought process.
Yeah, and that helps you to connect rather than disconnect with people who are a little different than you, different than the status quo of what we know people to be. And autism is so big a thing nowadays. They even have a month dedicated to it for awareness, and so on and so forth.
Let's be all in with this, that like everybody's different. And so I see educating people about autism as educating people about everybody, because we're all neurologically different.
Yes.
No 2 people are the same. And so if you can teach people how to accept those who are on the spectrum, you're essentially teaching them about how to communicate with the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And sorry, just a quick kind of carry on that. Like even, for example, I remember one day I said something to my boss and I like had one word off. Like I said, like the sky is blue, for example. And he's like, no, you mean the sky is navy. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I meant. And then like a week later, I said the same thing. And he repeated the same sentence back. And I was like, all right, dude, I get it. Like I just have that one word that's off. But then I'm like, oh wait, like he actually only deals in like specific, if something is this title, it is that title. There's no changing it. Yeah. And that's something that I didn't even like catch. I was just like, oh, okay, now I understand. That's just the way his brain's processing it. Where with me, I'm so carefree in life in general that I could say, instead of the sky is blue, I could say the ground is blue. And then if you're like, no, I mean this, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, same thing,
You just roll with the punches.
Yeah. When people are so meticulous that if this one hair is out of place and they got to come fix that one hair, they might be on the autism spectrum. I know our son, when I put the remote somewhere and it's out of place, he'll go look for it and put it where he wants it. And then if I can't find it, it's like, oh, it's over there. And then we have this little throw blanket on the couch. And if I'm like putting it on the left side of the couch, he'll come over there and fix it and put it on the right side. So
everything has to be in place.
Yeah. And I love that. So, okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring the ladies up really quick. We're going to bring Carolyn up. And we're going to bring Caitlin up, and they're going to say hi to Stephen. Caitlin, say hi to Stephen. Stephen, say hi to Caitlin.
Hello, it's nice to match a face.
Yeah.
Amazing. Carolyn, say hi to Steven. Steven, say hi to Carolyn.
Hey, nice to meet you.
So Steven knows of Caitlin because of Pat.
Yep.
We have that clicking again. Is that you, Carolyn? I think
Yeah.
it's Carolyn. So we're going to have to mute you until we fix that. Next time, we'll bring you up a little bit ahead of time and see what's up with that. But Steven, do you know Carolyn from anywhere?
From this stream.
Just from this stream. Okay, so you saw her last week when she came up, and maybe saw her in the text and everything else. So that's the beauty of doing what we do. So now Pat Flynn has a different type of live stream. Pat is solo every show. He's been doing it for 89 days. And we are in the live studio audience, as I like to say, or in the comment section. And he does allow the comment section to come back up. So if I can't catch it live and I catch it in the replay, it feels like I'm right there with y'all.
Yeah.
The only thing is, when I say something and text something, then Pat's not going to put it up on the screen like he does with April all the time and with you all the time and so on and so forth. So, but neither one of them is right and neither one of them is wrong. Hey, who's this?
Can you say hi to everybody? He's iPadding his favorite. We kept him up just so that he could say hello to everybody, right? You say hello? You say hi. Is that funny? What's so funny?
Momo, show me your palette.
Show everybody your palette. Good boy.
We love that. We love that. It's like how many kids, we're doing the happy song. If you're happy and you know it, pat your head, show your leg, touch your ear, and it's now show us your palette, and he does it. So it's part of that song.
I was gonna say, April, I see the spark in his eye. When I was nonverbal, my parents just saw that spark in his eye and knew that it was gonna get somewhere. I can see that with him. That was totally the spark that I had when I started talking. So don't lose hope. It can happen at any time. But to see him happy and to see his eyes light up, that's what you're looking for as a child with autism.
That's it, Caitlin. Amen to that. Yes.
You know, it's funny that you say that, though, because right before we went live tonight, I called him over to me so that I could change him. And out of nowhere, he did something that he hasn't done in a really long time. And he was going, mama, mama, mama. I haven't heard him say that in like forever. So
they know. It's just a matter of having it click. It's something that makes it click. And I don't know whether it's our neurological brain seeing the routine and making that happen. I don't know. But at some point that changes and it becomes an everyday. My mom was happy when she heard me talk, finally. Trust me.
That was at 5, right?
Now she's like, Caitlin, stop talking.
Yep. She said once I started talking, she gladly says this with a nice way of saying it, but she's like, once she started talking, we can't shut her up.
Hey, I want to address this from James before it gets too far away. April.
He says, and I think this was in response to what I was saying before, perhaps we simply need to broaden the spectrum and recognize that each of us is a bit different, but more similar than we often admit.
And that's just it. Because when you really make a list, one list says, what do we have that's different? And the other list, what do we have that's the same? That list that we're the same is going to be like 99%. And then that 1% is where we're different. But some people want to focus on the difference. The difference in skin color, the difference in the size of your head, the length of your hair, and beyond. And we see all kinds of idiota stuff out there today that I just can't get into it. It's like news. No, what's that? It's like no social media news, no news on the TV. I can't handle it. It's just I will go crazy. So we don't need to know all of that stuff. Thanks for saying that. So in the time that we have remaining, because we don't want to take up too much time, and what I love, I was saying, what's the difference between the way that Pat does his live stream and the way that we do our live stream? At one time, we were doing daily shows. And we had the same topics, but we had different people. And of course, if you have different people, then the topic, even though it's the same, is going to go and fly in a different direction. And that's what I want to address today. So when we go see Pat Flynn live for an hour, we know what Pat Flynn likes to talk about. He's way into the techie stuff. He does do some mindset stuff because I believe that everything has two sides. How to do it and why to do it. And most people ask, how do I do this, Roy? How do I do this, y'all? And then we tell them and they go, okay. And they don't even address the why side at all. So one of the questions I like to ask people is this. Is your why bigger than your but? B-U-T. Is your reason
Right.
for doing this thing bigger than the excuse for not doing this thing? So all of us here obviously like to live stream.
No, really?
Whether we're on camera or off camera and voice only or what have you, we like communicating in this way. I love it. I can build a rapport with Stephen quicker this way than I could in 89 shows in text at Pat's live stream every morning. Stephen Trudette, I'm going to send it over to Stephen real quick because he's going to tell us the unpacking of why. See, that's the why. Maybe the how. Why he sees April as his friend. Yes or no? And so he was going to get to that. I'm going to give him the floor to do that. Ladies, be thinking about that. As
Wait,
he already has?
Wait a minute. I'm already confused. Didn't he already say that?
Okay, then I missed it. So what why?
He sees everybody as his friend. Remember, he's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had a story, though. Stephen, didn't you have a story that was different than that?
No, I think I was just elaborating on, just saying, well, I think, for example, there's different levels of friend too in my head. So the person at the store or somebody online or whatever, that's a different kind of friend than the person that I go to lunch with every day versus my friend of 10 years. There's different, tiers, whatever you could say.
Right.
Confidant versus constituent. The confidant is for you. The constituent is for what you are for, or maybe even a comrade as somebody who's against what you are against.
There
I
you
would
go.
agree with that.
Yeah. So there's just different levels of it, but it's up to that other person. When I start I'm just speaking for me. When I start the person at friend, it's up to you to either let it progress as friend or regress to nothing, I guess.
Backwards.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because after I started doing YouTube and all that, some of people from high school that weren't really hugely responsible with me messaged me this within these past couple of weeks, just saying, "Hey, somehow my eyes have been wide and open since you've been telling your story, and we know your story for a long time." And I said, I wish I could go back and change stuff because we didn't realize how much was changing for you at that time when we were going through our own stuff.
Yeah.
But I said, you can't change time. And I said, for you even recognizing that that was a problem is a big step in the right direction. And I said, if we respect boundaries and maybe we talk more, we can become friends at some point. Mm-hmm. But it's going to take a long time because of the way that you guys treated me in school. Obviously, it's not going to go away overnight.
But it can.
It can, yeah.
If you don't hang on to it. So, Caitlin, I'm going to challenge you. Do you like holding a grudge, yes or no?
I would say no.
Why are you
okay, hold on. With the stuff in school, I've let go of that. I've learned to let go of that. I've learned to just say, okay, it happened. This is my new chapter. Since now, and I'm entering college next fall, it's going to be a new chapter for me. So that old chapter is going away. My insecurities, my bullying, whatever was negative in my life, it's going to turn into a positive. I don't want to be in that negative space anymore. I was in that negative space for a long time. Once you've been in negative space for a long time, you don't want to be in it anymore.
But I heard you say it's going to take a while.
Well, and mentally in my head, because it's it sticks in your head. I'm trying to find a way that it's explainable to you guys, because it's when I try to explain able-bodied people what I've been thinking, people are like, "What? I'm lost." I'm trying to think of it as kind of like Pac-Man. You're following. You're trying to get to that one title to get to it. But you have to go through obstacles to get there, right? So my brain is thinking in steps. 1, let go of that. I've let go of that. And 2, the next step would be to take away that visual to that person. It's not that I've taken it away from everyone, if that makes sense. But it has to go it has to go through individually.
It doesn't make any sense. So
I've let go of it.
Here's the answer. Here's the answer.
Talking.
Whether you're Caitlin or anybody else on the planet, the way you see a Roy Montero is the way you treat that Roy Montero. Caitlin, is that true? Yes or no?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And so the way you see your old friends from high school, or the way you see your old bullies from high school, or the way you see blank from high school is the way you're going to treat them. And you're going to treat them as long as you think that until you decide not to think that. And so if I ask you, do you like holding on to a grudge? The answer is yes. You do. You do like it. Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah. So I think I see what you're both saying, but I understand exactly what Caitlin's saying, because it's kind of like, think of it almost like you have, and I like how you played your audience there, Caitlin, because you used a video game reference, which I understood. So that's actually, believe it or not, like, just to go back to sales really quickly, that's a hard thing to do sometimes as managers, is when you're trying to convey a message, understanding your audience and using examples that they actually understand. That's actually a pretty hard skill. So the fact that you did that without even thinking about it was pretty impressive. Caroline, I think, has something to say.
Hold on. Let me unmute her. Go ahead.
I think that, like, it's important to realize that when stuff happens to you, that through time you realize that you weren't the only one that things happened to, and to let go of it is fine, because that's healthy and that's the only way you move forward. But it's hard to forget all that thing. But I think it's more healthy for you and to realize too that when people bully you, it's mostly out of their own. They have something the matter with them. That's why they're looking at you.
Yes.
Projecting anger onto you.
Yeah.
It actually has nothing to do with you.
Yes. Well put.
Yes. So actually, yeah. Sorry. Can I just finish that one point? So actually, on what both Caitlin and Carolyn were saying, the way I kind of like think about it is like, you're almost trying to replace the memories, right? So you've already built this amount of memories of that person, and most of them were probably negative. So it's almost like now, like, if we're going to have a scale, the person's adding good memories in there, right? So eventually, or I guess it should be like that. So eventually the good memories will start to like offset the negative ones. So while you still remember, there was a time that we didn't like each other, all the new good ones outweigh by far all the old stuff. So it's one of those where, yeah, everybody's going to remember the grudge and have a bit of it. Like, one of my best friends, actually 2 of my best friends, we didn't like each other at all when we first met. But I often forget that as a fact, because we've made so many better memories since then.
Right. I think that's my problem, was I didn't have good memories to begin with. And so it's hard to fix that relationship when you have a mountain of negative.
Exactly.
So it's not going to go away overnight. And I'm in that process of starting to take away that mountain and to make it at least equal, if not getting it into the higher good memory. And I think that's for me, my mental game, that's a good step to take. And it's like, I rather would take something slow and easy than rush into it and then I ruin it at the end.
Well, see, that I like what you just said there. Okay? Because if you don't say that, then I'm going to use my own brain and I'm going to say to you, why do you want to wait 20 years to get rid of all of those negative thoughts when you can do it in 20 seconds? That would be my question to you. And then you would say, but Roy, I need 20 years because for 4 years it felt like 20 to me. So now I need to take 20, even though they want to be my friend because they see me in a different light. It's like, Caitlin, I didn't know how brilliant you were. Oh my goodness, I thought you were just some blank chick in high school. I'm going to make a new decision based on new information now. It's like, hey, you want to build a relationship with me? Yes or no? And Caitlin goes, well, let's see, 20 years, and we might get there. I'm exaggerating, of course.
I was going to say, you're exaggerating that a bit. I would say like
so
maybe
how long?
a year.
How long? A year. Okay.
Maybe a
So
year.
you say to them, look, you guys can be my friend in a year. Other than that, stay away from me. Let me process this and get rid of all the negative thoughts and come back in a year from now and go, hey, you want to be my friend? Caitlin, would
Yeah.
that be accurate?
Yeah, that'd be accurate.
And I have no problem with that. Right? April, you have a problem with that? Because you know me. It's like, if we can't be friends today, tell me when we can, and then I'll stay away from you until that time arrives.
See, Roy and I sometimes have little blanks.
Butting heads.
I'll say something and he'll say, well, why do you think that way? And I'll go, because you don't understand. I've been dealing with this for X amount of years and it's going to take me a while. And he's like, well, how long is it going to take? And what is it going to take to not get you to think that anymore? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just telling you, like, this is hard.
Yeah.
And you can't explain how a brain processes through mental things, regardless if you're able-bodied or not.
But see, it's weird for me because I see what you're saying, Caitlin, because me too. I do this with Roy all the time. And he challenges me just like he just challenged you. But I know he's right. I know that it's not logical to hold on to something simply because, like, what good does that do you?
But we're emotional creatures, and emotion sometimes is what the driving factor is, because it's easy.
Right.
It's easy to grab onto the emotional factor versus the logical factor.
It's easier. So do you want to take life with a easy road, or do you want to get challenged and go through the pain quickly? Because for me personally, here's the way I think. Do I need to be in pain for 20 seconds or for one more year? Let me think. Oh, I'll go Caitlin's route. I'm going to be in pain for one more year. It's like, I can't phantom that. My brain won't allow me to phantom 20, See, I'm stuck on the number 20. 1 year of pain or 20 seconds of pain. It's like, I'm taking 20 seconds, excruciating pain, and I'm done with it. And now I can go and be friends with these people. But Caitlin's going to drag it out for another year and go through that pain. It's like, that's good for her, because I'm not telling her to be like me. I'm just asking, why can't you do it in 20 seconds? And she's going, well, that's too painful. I want the easy road. Is that true, Caitlin? Yes or no?
I wouldn't say that it's...
Yes or no?
For me, like, okay.
Yes or no?
Explain to me what you're saying yes or no to, because it...
Okay, you want 1 year instead of 20 seconds. You can go 20 seconds worth of pain, but you want to go, I can't do that. That's too hard, Roy. I want to go the easy route and do it for 1 year of pain. So you're looking for the easy road of 1 year of pain and not the hard pain of 20 seconds. Is that true, Caitlin? Yes or no? And then you can unpack it all you want.
So I would say yes to that, but the only reason I say that is because the memories was already emotionally too hard to deal with already. And
that was your first impression of them.
Right, exactly. Once you get that first impression, it's hard to reverse that. And
okay. So let me challenge you one more time.
Oh, wait,
so
sorry. Carol,
yeah, please.
Carolyn had something.
Oh crud! I have my thingy up, so I can't see her.
I can see what you're saying, because you're saying that you already have the preconceived notion that that person's gonna hurt you. So then the trusting for you that the other person is going to be genuine in their interaction with you. Is that going to be? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the trust is the biggest thing.
But I always think that I'm not the same person that I was a year ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. Like, I think it's hard sometimes to, like, because you remember people in high school, but that was a long time ago, and I'm not the same person I was back then. So I try to remember that about other people, and it doesn't make what they did any less wrong. It just means you're coming at it with a greater understanding of a human being, instead of, like, just the fact that somebody else treated you wrong. Because I would hope that in 20 years, the person that they knew who you were back then is going to change, because you're not the same person you were in high school.
Right.
Right.
So
I think the trust
Carolyn,
was the biggest issue, because I started out the relationship as being positive, but then they turned on me.
Yes.
You mean in high school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So,
let me
and
ask
once-
Carolyn really quick before I forget. Carolyn, would you do 20 seconds of pain or 1 year of pain with these friends?
I'm
To
gonna do
be.
20 seconds.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Caitlin, real quick. James says,
Oh, am I saying it?
yeah.
Oh, okay. You need to tell me these things. Is when you.
Well, you got it
need to
right. You got it
follow-
right. Your assumption was correct.
Well, just say it verbally so that way I know. But James says, unfortunately, many of our social systems, particularly the system I'm most familiar with, thrive on the notion of retribution. Sorry, I cannot talk.
So, unfortunately, many of our social systems, I don't even know what a social system is. So, James, if you could unpack social system, is a system not human?
No,
Because yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
he doesn't mean like a specific. He means more like social constructs, like how you and James, you can correct us, of course, how society operates. So even like going back a couple conversations where it's like people, will pick on somebody because they're different. It's because they don't want somebody to think that they are different. So it's like, all right, I'll grab onto this kind of herd mentality and grab this group to make fun of this one person over there. Like that's a social construct or a social system of you never want to be the odd person out. So I think that's what James is implying there.
I never really thought about it that way.
Okay, yeah.
Now that you're saying that, Stephen, that makes
Stephen,
more sense in my head.
Social systems, the way that you unpacked it. 1 second, Carolyn, I see you. April and I just had this discussion. So, the judicial system. Okay,
Off.
that clears it up for me. So it's harder in text sometimes, but thank you for that. So, okay, I totally get that. Before we get too far, Carolyn?
I'm also thinking that in high school, there's a lot of people are trying to figure out who they are, and when they're
Totally
different in the way that me and Caitlin are different. Like, and I know everybody has their thing that makes them different, but we are like obvious examples of like what different is, and we don't, being in the disabled community, we don't fit into what society generally says is acceptable. So, but I always try to remember, and this took me a long time to get, but that high school, everybody's trying to figure out who they are. So to be different than that is like, and they're all trying to fit in, and everybody has their own weird thing, whether or not they tell you they show that or not. But ours is just more evident. So I think that's why it makes it harder for us to fit in, is because we're already forced to kind of be ourselves.
Right.
Because there's no hiding the disabilities.
Yeah, I would agree. We can't hide it. And I think that was what frustrated mostly in high school, is that people just couldn't let it go and just let me figure out, because the negativity was so much that I couldn't figure out me, was in the middle of, in a battle of my head going, is today going to be a bad day, or is today going to be an okay day where I can focus on school and get to my end goal, which was graduating high school, at that time. So that really messed with my head. And I think that's why it's taking me longer than an average person that wants to deal with it for 20 seconds, is because it messed up with my journey of knowing who I am. And I'm starting to realize that now. So now that I know who I am and what I'm achieving for, I can kind of unpack that mentality that's hurt me for so long.
Do you think, though, both of you, Carolyn and Caitlin, do you ever stop and think, have I taken on traits that other people have imposed upon me that aren't true? Do you see yourselves in a certain way and you believe it now simply because other people said you are this way, or they see you that way and treat you that way, and now you think that that's that's an autistic trait, and you can't separate that from the fact that somebody said, this is who we see you as. I don't even know if that made any sense, but I just had that thought about.
I'm trying to get to where you are.
You know how
you're trying. Yeah. I got labels thrown at me all the time by my own teachers, honestly, and that didn't help either because they made it blatantly obvious, and that was frustrating, you know. And those labels, I tried to take them off my mind. I try to ignore the bullies because, you know, you deal with it for so long. You just ignore them. Like, you're not supposed to hear it. But then when you hear it constantly, it's like a war in your head. And I'm just starting to unpack that now. And I'm 24 and I've been away from high school 6 years now. So it's not easy growing up with those labels. But you decide at one point, is the labels going to be sticking in your head forever? Because it's certainly in my head, it's not going to, because I'm seeing the person that I want to be. And I'm making steps to do it that way. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, I was thinking about what you said before about the processing and things that I've said to Roy from my own perspective when he says to me, well, why do you think that way? Or why he'll question something. And I go, you just don't understand how my brain processes things. And
my brain processes in steps. It doesn't process like a constant direction. Like, you know, somebody says, what's 2 + 2? Well, for me, I say, okay, here's the numbers 2 and 2, and it's going to make 4, and that's the final answer. It's not like it's a simple, clear-cut direction. And it took my family a long time to get that. Doing chores, they would have to repeat chores several times until I got the routine down.
I just, like, I feel like I'm supposed to be breaking down this barrier. In light of what I experienced with my son, that sometimes I place, and we were just having this conversation the other day, I place limitations on him because of his autism label, that I make excuses for him and why we shouldn't push him in this area or that area. And Roy tells me that I'm limiting him. And I know in some areas he's right, but in some areas I believe he's wrong. And where do you separate that? The label and what autism is known as by society versus what that one individual is capable of, but where maybe your mom or your teachers or your therapists made excuses for you over the years, and now you believe you have those limitations, and now you're here sharing it with us going, but you don't understand, I can't process it that way. Maybe that's not true.
It could be. It could very well be. I see what your battle as a parent, April, with that, because it's not, and of course everyone's autism journey is going to be different. Obviously, the diagnosis, the time. Like for me, I'm a very rare female case. Like I got diagnosed at the age of 4. That is unheard of in this day and age of the autism world. Most of them don't get diagnosed until their teens or early adulthood. So for me to get that at the age of 4 I'm beyond blessed, because that allowed me to get to the help that I needed. It may have not been fully helpful, but it got to where I am today, and I'm very blessed for that. And I wouldn't say that you're limiting him. I think you're allowing him to move at his own pace. And I think that's really important to note, because an autism child will tell you and will show you when they can't handle it, you know?
But if we had let him go at his own pace earlier on, when he would throw fits about things, and if I was like, okay, he wouldn't be where he is today at 10.
I would agree. Okay, this with the behavioral stuff, I get it. But like with everyday routine kind of things, like doing your getting ready for school day, like that's something that they could pick up on and kind of show you how it's going to go. I don't know. It's not meant for everything. Autism is a complicated diagnosis. It's not something that's a quick here's a common treatment plan and it works. It's not like the flu where you get the flu vaccine and it diffuses your risk. It's something that's lifelong.
Started on vaccines. That's a whole different show.
Sorry. I was just trying to find a quick example in the quick amount of time.
I know. Carolyn wanted to say something like 3 times. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, Carolyn.
I think that in the world of CP, which is the world that I come from, I think it's very common to think that you're gonna the diagnosis is gonna look the same with everyone, but because it has to do with your brain and what part of your brain is affected, I think some people are going to be able to do some things and some people aren't going to be able to do, and it's a very tricky balance both for parents and people, because there has to be a point to where you accept, okay, this is who I am as a disabled person. And I find that more people struggle when they don't accept, not accepting that you're less, but that you're different and it's okay to be that different. Because if you always strive to be quote unquote normal, you're going to miss the person that you are, because you're always going to struggle for something that you can't fix.
Right.
Like, at least in my case, because it has to do with your brain and there's no cure for your brain.
So I like what you're saying, Carolyn.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, it does if you answer my question. Answer my question. So I like what you're saying. I would like to love what you're saying if you answer my question. So are you saying to me that you're not capable of being challenged by me beyond the limits that you've put on yourself? Yes or no?
I'm saying that.
Yes or no?
How did you word that again?
Okay. So here's what you're doing, what Caitlin is doing. I don't know if Steven's doing it or not, but he'll tell me soon enough. Because when I ask you yes or no and you don't answer yes or no, here's what you're telling me. Roy, I'm on the fence. I don't have a place to plant my flag. As a matter of fact, I lost my flag. Excuse me? I'm sorry?
But yeah. Yes, I understand where you're coming from, but
No, there's no but. No, Carolyn, there's no but. You said but. Now, Carolyn, when you say but, everything that you said before that, I understand, Roy, but you just wiped out the I understand, which means you do not understand. Okay, so listen to me.
I'm trying to understand where
you're don't try. No, don't try. If you try, it's not going to happen. Okay, don't try. Just do. You either do or do not do. There is no try. So, Carolyn, listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth very carefully. Can you be challenged by Roy beyond the limits that you've placed on yourself? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Stephen, help me out. What did you just hear that Carolyn said prior to me challenging her beyond the limits? She said, I got a limit, Roy. I can't be pushed beyond it. That's what I heard her say. She didn't use those words. I asked her straight out, plant your flag. She said, I don't know where my flag is. And I went, well, it's over there in the corner. And she went and got it, planted it, and said, yes, I can be challenged beyond the limits that I've placed on myself by you, Roy, and I'm willing to go there because I know not to try, to either do or do not do. And Stephen, what did you hear in that process between myself and Carolyn, and earlier between myself and Caitlin? This is me, bro. I challenge people. I challenge you to say, is that true, what you're thinking, what you're believing, okay? So if I were to ask Carolyn and Caitlin, do you believe everything you think?
No, I don't believe everything.
Okay, good. Caitlin believes not everything she thinks. Carolyn, do you believe everything you think? And she said no. So, Stephen, unpack what you heard as not so much of an innocent bystander, but getting to know me, getting to know these ladies, and getting to know what I'm doing here, because I do see everybody as someone that I want, not need, want to love. I know there's such a thing as tough love, but I shouldn't have to say tough love. When you love somebody, you challenge them beyond what you think they're capable of because they've stopped themselves short of the goal line. It's like, I can't do this. And yeah.
So this goes back to like everything we're seeing in the world right now today, is that there's a lot of people who just don't want to be challenged. Don't challenge me. Don't challenge my opinion. Don't make me tell you if this is true or false. They just believe what they believe, and they don't want to hear anything that anybody else has to say. And I think that is a major, major problem in this world today. And are
you meaning on just the topic of what's going on in the world, or just in everything in general?
Everything in general.
Everything in general, but
especially
just the way of the world right now. Like,
yeah. Good interjection. We're running low on time. Stephen.
Oh, wait, one more thing. When I was in the other room, I was thinking, what must people, if somebody were to tune in right now, they would look at Roy, not to plant seeds in anybody's head, but I could hear it in my head that Roy, like, who is Roy to say this about these ladies here who have these, whether they call it a disability or not, the world
I don't.
But the world will see it as Caitlin.
I don't care.
Carolyn having a disability or limited ability, and they're gonna don't let me finish.
I know.
And they're gonna say how you're be more like gentle with them, and you're gonna hurt their feelings. But these are conversations we need to have, because right now what we're actually doing is empowering Caitlin and Carolyn to be all that they can be and to not limit themselves. But I could just hear somebody on the outside looking in with no full context going, I can't believe you're talking to them this way and telling them that they shouldn't feel and see and think what they think. And it's just...
All right, let's address that. Let's give Stephen the floor, because the earlier question I asked, what did you see here between my challenging the ladies? And I challenge April all the time, so she's used to it. So, and I don't think I've challenged you yet, Stephen, but if you say something that needs challenging, I will. So you have the floor, sir, because I want the male perspective on this. What was going on between me and these ladies challenging them? Was it good, bad, or indifferent? Start there, please.
Okay. Well, do you want me to just answer that on a yes or no and then unpack, or
yes?
Unpack?
Yes. Okay. See, he's paying attention. I love it.
Yes, there was challenging occurring. But one thing that you definitely said, and again, as the nerd in the room, is you were referencing Yoda there with the do or do not.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
He knows Yoda's reference, his one-liner, his quote. Love it.
The Star Wars movies are too much for me. I've gotten overstimulation attacks from the Star Wars
But that one's
movies.
absolutely true. So he caught that. So go ahead.
But there's another part to there's another line in the movie that I've been working on personally. And that is the line of only the Sith deal in absolutes. And
say that again.
That's only the Sith. They're the villains. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi's telling Anakin, who's going down this dark path. He's saying that only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Okay, wait a second. Is that true or not? Yes or no?
That the Sith deal in absolutes?
Yeah, I don't even know who that is. You're saying...
The bad guy.
The Sith is the villain in that first movie.
So the villains only deal in absolutes, and the non-villains do not. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And here, this is where the impacting really happens. So
for you, before you go on, so I know the context, is that true outside the movie as well? So if you're not a villain, then only villains deal with absolutes, and the non-villains, they don't deal with absolutes. Is that true, Stephen?
Sorry, one more time.
April?
I'm just thinking about what you said. Like, I'm wrapping my mind around.
Because I think you might have said the same thing twice. That's why I was...
Okay, so is there another word for absolute?
I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is.
What would you use? What would you use?
Well, I don't have.
Okay, we'll think about the other word later. Let's use absolute. Okay. Stephen, is there absolute? Yes or no?
No.
Are you absolutely sure?
Yes.
Do you see what you did there?
Oh no, I see exactly what you're doing there.
So you say there's no absolute by using an absolute to say there's no absolute.
Correct.
So that's an oxymoron, and it refutes itself, that cannot be true. So, Stephen, is there truth? Yes or no?
Oh, there's always truth.
There is always truth. I didn't hear a yes or no. Stephen, is there truth? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now watch this. If Stephen were to say no, there is no truth, then he would have to use truth to say there is no truth, which
Right.
makes that an oxymoron, and it's a self-refuting statement. So there's self-attesting statements and there's self-refuting statements. So a lot of people on our planet walk around as zombies on autopilot, sleepwalking, and they go, my truth and your truth. Roy, that's your truth. My truth is this. And it's the opposite of me. And they think that we can both be right using absolute opposites and both be right. And for me, you're insane. And you need to get away from me because I can't talk to you. You're insane. So I'm glad you brought this up because this is one of my sticking points for people is like, Stephen, if two people have different opinions about a thing and they're complete opposites, can they both be right? Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Why is that?
Because do you know anything about so there's a law of non-contradiction. Your car cannot be both in your garage and not in your garage at the same time.
Okay.
You can't have A and not A at the same time.
Okay.
One is right, one is wrong. Is your car in the garage? Yes or no? Is A blank? Yes or no? In other
But
words,
those are two different scenarios.
no.
Because one is based on memory, one is based on a person's understanding, a person's perception, a person's history, versus another one is a factual, physical object that I can then look at and say this.
Okay, so bad example for you. So let me give you a better example you can wrap your mind around. So, can you have A and not A at the same time? Yes or no?
What's the example?
A. Make it anything you want.
Can you have car and not car? Can you have microphone and not
Well,
microphone?
no, you can't. Those are physical things. You can't have both.
Correct. So one is wrong and one is right, or they're both wrong.
Right.
So if I say that Jack is your name, yes or no, you have a yes or no. And if somebody says, yeah, his name's Jack, I just gave it to him. It's like, no, but his name is Stephen, and the only person that we can actually ask is Stephen. Stephen, what's your name? Well, it's Jack. I just changed it.
Wait,
But then it's not Stephen. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't have both at the same time. It's the law of non-contradiction.
Roy, you're doing way too many analogies, and I can't wrap my head around this.
Okay, so Caitlin, is there truth?
I think what's happening. So you're acknowledging, you're saying that there is absolute, right? You're saying there is yes and there's no.
I am saying there's an absolute yes, and you said there wasn't. So I'm just helping you to understand. I'm challenging you to say, if you say there is no absolute, that's an oxymoron. That is a self-refuting statement. You blow that statement up. That statement cannot be true. There has to be absolutes because you're using an absolute to say there's no absolute.
So
and define absolute, Roy, so that way I'm getting the
something that was 500 years ago, today, and in 5,000 years from now. It's the same.
But the thing is, all right. So let me give an example, I guess. Right. You could say, right, like, I guess agree or disagree, that if I take an object from you, then I'm stealing, right? Is that fair to say?
No, I wouldn't say that. So truth has more to deal with spiritual things than physical things.
But that was my point before.
So if someone says there is no God, are they absolutely telling you the truth, or are they absolutely telling you a lie?
But
one person
in the group would have to know the actual 100% factual answer to then determine which one is yes and no.
If someone says all there is physical stuff, if we can't see it in a microscope or a telescope, it doesn't exist. And other people say, well, you don't understand the spiritual world. There's angels.
Well,
there's.
I think wait Wait, I think
Go ahead.
I think we're going far off track here. I think the part where I was trying to get to, there's a gray, is using an example of emotion, comparing that to an example of physical, right? So in saying that it takes you 20 years to get over 4 years of high school is not the same context as, is it going to take you 20 seconds to rub a Band-Aid or let it peel little by little over a year. Like, those two things are not the same, even though they're currently being paired together. So
yeah, so I'm not, that's not what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about, okay, so if I say to you, do you have morals?
Yes.
And can you prove that to me? Just yes or no. You don't have to say what it is you're going to do to prove it to me. Can you prove that you have morals to me, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So are your morals the same as Caitlin's morals?
No.
Is Carolyn's the same as Caitlin's?
No.
Okay. But morals have absolute in them. This is an absolute moral. This is evil. This is good, right?
And that's all perception.
No, but there are absolutes.
How so?
So can I say that my morality is to kill babies that have red hair? That's what I believe is morally wrong, because I hate redheads, and every time a redhead gets around me, this happens, that happens. So now I'm going to morally, this is my moral, I believe that it's okay to kill redheads, little babies, grown adults, whatever, whenever I want, whenever they get close to me. So you're going to come to me and say, Roy, that's wrong. But you're saying there's no absolutes. So how is that absolutely wrong for me? And how is that, excuse me, not absolute? How's that absolutely wrong for me when you're imposing your morals on me and you're saying, no, there's no absolutes. There has to be absolutes.
Because then you'd be imposing your morals on me as well.
Correct. So how can we have two people who have different morals, A, not A, right? I believe it's okay to kill babies with red hair. You believe it's not okay. Who's right?
Well, that's where there's the gray area to discuss who's right or who's wrong.
Yeah, but who decides?
Well, I think that's the answer to that is who does answer the question, because everyone's entitled to their opinions, right? And it's like how people perceptualize disabilities 100 years ago is a whole lot different than it is now in 2020. You know, and everyone's entitled to their opinions. But what I tell people about disability is that you can see it, but once you meet people with having it, your perception changes. So I don't think anyone's opinions are right or wrong. It's the matter of what their perception is coming from, and if they're willing to change that.
Exactly.
So I agree that opinions.
Did follow you?
So I agree that opinions are neither right or wrong. But what's the moral law based on what you just said? That's not an opinion.
And the moral law would be? I need
treat everyone.
Sorry.
To treat everyone with love. I think that there's no greater power in the universe than love. And if you love everybody, then you will treat everybody with respect. And if you treat somebody with disrespect, that you're morally wrong. Which
is an emotion, right? And that
it's a law.
No, but to love somebody is an emotion.
No.
So that if you
I disagree. No, love is a doing. Love is not an emotion. Love is a doing. Watch. Love is a doing. Love is a good doing for the other person, you, Stephen, all the time. If I love you, then I will treat you good all the time, never evil. I will never look at you as being evil, therefore treating you as evil. I will always do the best for you, no matter what you do to me. You cut off my arm. Now, I will not repay evil for evil. I will not cut off your arm. Even though some people will say, well, that's your right, Roy. If he did that to you, then you could. No, the moral law says, do not repay evil with evil. Repay evil with good.
But not everyone follows that.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they follow it or not. They decide to be evil or not. Okay, would you guys agree that there's evil in this world?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
That's but that's going back to Caitlin's point. Like that's all based on moral. Like my moral could be that if you truly love me and you cut my arm off, then you understand that me cutting your arm off is a sign of, hey, this was not, I didn't mean to do this or whatever, and now we're the same. So you can blur that infinite amounts of times, and that's where I was coming from with there is no, only the Sith deal in absolutes. Like that was the line, but it's like there's always more than absolutes, and it turns out that in that movie, the good guys also dealt in absolutes, which is what led to their downfall. So it's one of those where you have to always look for that gray and always look for that. Yes, there you can say yes and have a but. It might not be the correct line of verbiage from a legal standpoint, but you can say something and strongly lean that way and still be in a gray zone without just being one or two bastards.
Well, so I believe that we live in the United States. You guys believe that too?
Yeah,
and because you do, we have laws of the land, the whole entire nation, right? And then we have jurisdictions that have certain laws that may be different. The law in all y'all's city may be different than the law in my city, but the overall arching law of the land, we have to follow that. And so that's an absolute. And if we go against it, then there is some retribution, some consequence that happens. Would we all agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that even if we don't agree with what is absolute, for you to live where you are, because if you go to a deserted island, live all by yourself, you can make any rules and make morality anything you want. But the minute you put another person there, now you have to be in some sort of agreement in order to live there together without one of you like taking the other one out completely and saying, no, I don't like the way, you're setting up this law and I'm going to take you out. All I'm saying here, guys, is this. It's when we have a decision to make, such as this. We're in a virtual environment. I see you all as people that I want to love. Whether I call that a friend or not is immaterial, because I think that's what the definition of a friend is. If you have a friend, you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you always love them, even if they're going to do you wrong. Because if I can remember this one-liner, a friend is somebody that knows all about you and loves you anyway. Because everybody knows you aren't perfect, and you're going to screw up, and you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to say something or not say something, and the other person's not going to like it, and then they're going to do whatever they want with it based on their morality. It's like, oh my goodness, Stephen, you didn't say hi to me like 3 days in a row. What's wrong with you, right? So now my brain goes, okay, he's probably not my friend. And you're going like, well, listen, I had this and that, and you have to take that into consideration. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. So we may impose laws, if you will, I'm making air quotes, on the other person because, hey, if we're in a friendship, then I want you to abide by all these laws. And if you don't, but you never gave me the rules, right? But you expect me to do something. I expect you to do something. And that's where the relationship or the friendship falls apart. And that's all I was getting at when you said that about, we were talking about friendship. We were talking about morality. We were talking about you can't have A and not A. And so when you were saying that there's no absolute for you, I have to ask myself, how can you live in a world where there's no absolutes? I mean, you absolutely know that when you wake up, the sun should be there. And if it's not, you know what I'm saying? And you absolutely know that there's going to be gravity when you wake up. Otherwise, you're going to bounce up to the ceiling. So there are absolutes. Maybe electricity, there's a switch. And you're pretty sure, unless there's a short circuit, a light's going to go on, a fan's going to go on, the stove's going to go, whatever. And so I just wanted to point out that for me, if I think that you believe that there's no absolutes, it's going to be difficult for me to have a relationship with you. That's all I was getting at, Stephen and Caitlin and Carolyn. So I know April's heard this before, and she just kind of, she says, I know where this is going. So good night, you guys. So, but with that in mind, Carolyn, please, what did you hear Do you believe likewise? I mean, put it into perspective for us. What are you hearing?
She's still muted.
What he thought.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
Go
what
ahead and
did you
start.
think?
You were muted, Carolyn. I would just say
Yeah,
what you
we
were
didn't
gonna say
hear
again.
you. So go ahead, Hunt. Start over, please.
I said I still want to know what Steven thinks about the exchange and the challenging that you just said, because I don't feel like you got a chance to answer.
Oh yeah, let's go back to that. Sure, absolutely, Carolyn. So the question was, when I challenged Carolyn and Caitlin and now yourself, what do you think about that? Right, Carolyn, is that your question?
Yes.
Well, so yeah, it's it is that there's the gray parts, because for example, I as a manager, I know what the rules are and what the rules aren't. I know what to do in this situation versus that situation. So when asking somebody to explain, like, hey, did you not know the rules? It's like, I do know the rules or I don't know the rules. So if they do know the rules and then still did the wrong thing, instead of being quick for me to say, you should have known better, blah, 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 there's always the possibility there's a reason they went that direction. And that's where your gray area will sometimes fall.
You
So
hit that nail on the head, because that's what a lot of employers have troubles with me doing, because I try to do my job as the best as I can, and
right.
do what I can for my job. And I work in the retail industry. So when I have managers who aren't clear or don't tell me what I'm doing for the day, I'm like, well, when I don't follow normal social dictation, or I don't figure out what's normal social dictation and can't figure it out on my own, I depend on input from others to say, okay, this is where I'm going for the day today. And I think that's true with friendships. I think that's why autism, honestly, is so difficult making friends, because we don't know the social rules that are unspoken for. And it took me a long time to get that. And I'm still learning that. Even in this new chapter of mine, like, I've just started making friends at the age of 19, and I'm only 24 now. So like, I'm really new into this, and it's something that it's not an overnight process to know everything you need to know. Okay, these are the social rules. These are things that I have to follow and know. But at some point, it's gonna click. It's gonna get there, and I can follow it. But until that point, I think that's why it's so difficult for Roy to answer your question, because I think it's something that maybe isn't easily breaking down in my brain, and for some autistic kids to figure out in a quick amount of time. And it has to be broken down into many different rules in order for it to be fully understood. And I think that's why it's taking me a longer time to depact the friendships with the people I had in high school, is because I'm trying to break down those rules, create new ones, so that way we start on the right foot and grow from there. And I think that's why I was hesitating with your question, because the rules weren't breaking down enough for me to know the plan of attack. And that's what autism is for me. Routine is something that I take really close to heart.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
So are you saying that, like, you need more detail to make a plan before you understand something? Like, before you understand a social interaction, you need the extra detail to understand where the map is going?
Yeah, like if I'm coming into the middle of a conversation with somebody, like, I wouldn't have to know the context of what they're talking about, because otherwise I'll be lost.
True that.
And it's also my hearing has to be mixed in with that, because sometimes some can go one ear and out of the other. Well, I don't really have out of the other, and it all comes in once. And I don't know how to explain this, but it takes a lot longer for my brain to connect with the autism and the hearing loss to say, okay, this is what they're saying, this is what they're wanting me to say. And it's like a pause in your head. And it's hard for an able-bodied person to understand that. and even somebody with another disability, because obviously our disability journeys are different.
I think I understand because it's very hard for me to do physical things. Like I have to break down, okay, to stand up. There's processes that I need to do, but my muscle memory doesn't remember those. So I have to think about each step of each thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's like putting together a puzzle.
Yes.
Like I have to
Yes.
think about each step of, okay, this is how this goes, and if I do everything right, it'll I'll get to where I want to go. But if at some point in that process, I'm not thinking about a step, I miss, and it doesn't, I don't get to standing up correctly, or I have to rethink about a transfer. That's why sometimes when I talk, it's slower because I think it's harder for me, not speaking, but like the physical act of speaking, especially when I'm passionate about a subject.
Right.
It gets, but it doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm saying. It means that I have to think more about all the muscle
Correct. Yes.
movements,
Yeah.
Yes.
all those things.
And I think I think the thing you want to take away from this conversation, especially with me and Carolyn, is that maybe something that you're saying could be something that isn't understood for
Absolutely.
ladies like us.
Totally.
And to
Totally
tell
agree.
us to break it down.
Okay. So let me unpack what you unpacked for me. Stephen, you're up next because I think we can get to the bottom of what I did or what my point B was for tonight's conversation. So I don't know what I don't know. And for me to do what normal people do, what average mediocre people do, to believe all my thoughts to be true about another human being without asking them, that's ludicrous. I asked Carolyn yes or no questions because my brain functions. Did you hear the words that I shared with you? Because maybe, just maybe, somebody in your life put into your head, your mind, your heart to believe something that's not true, that's not absolute. And I need to know that. And you may not have the wherewithal to tell me this, nor may you have the vulnerability to tell me this. It's like, hey, Roy, when you talk to me, you got to remember I have CP and here's what it does and this and that. You may not think about that, Carolyn. Caitlin, you may not think about that, but you ladies are amazing because you are telling me that. And here's the reason I believe you're telling me that. You can correct me if I'm wrong because I could be wrong. It's because I set out to do a show like this with my wife and create an environment and a culture where you are heard, where I can hear you. Even through some of the pain that you may be experiencing. It might be cognitive dissonance. It may just be, good old-fashioned butthurt. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. But all I know is when I ask you a yes or no question, you will realize soon enough, oh, if I don't answer yes or no for Roy, he doesn't know what I'm thinking, feeling, being, and it's going to confuse him. And I don't want to do that. I want to help him to understand me. So I'm going to say yes or no. That'll help me to understand me a little bit better because maybe nobody's ever asked me this question. And then I can unpack it for him all I want because he always gives me the floor to unpack everything. And I love that. That's what I set out to do. So, Stephen, did you feel that was the environment that I was preparing not only for the ladies, but for yourself as well as, someone that is, and we'll use the term abled and not abled in certain functions and certain abilities or disabilities that we have that are stifling us. It's like, Carolyn wants to get out so much, but her body is stifling her. Caitlin wants to get out so much. Her body is stifling her. And in some way, your body and my body, Stephen, are stifling us too. But, I talk so dang fast. I want to get it all out. And maybe Caitlin and Carolyn can't process it as fast as I get it out, nor you. So what did you feel? What did you think? I challenge everybody. I want to be challenged back. Caitlin's challenging me back. You're challenging me back. And I love that because I don't want to be wrong, right? And if I'm
Right.
thinking one way and somebody's put that in my head and I believe it and I'm wrong, I want you to challenge me and say, Roy, but have you thought about this or have you thought about that? I'm always about perspective. I'm not necessarily into giving people advice or telling them this, that, or the other thing. It's like, have you considered this, right? Because that's usually what allows that other person to make those new decisions. I've never known anybody, if you screamed at them and go, you got to believe this, and they go, oh yeah, I'll believe that. So, Stephen?
No, I mean, I definitely caught it. And I think the reason that even I like got really into it was because I tried to, I'm trying to undo there's only a yes and no. Like it's something that I have like tried to work on personally. So once I have to think in a yes or no, or I hear somebody say yes or no, it's like me trying to practice with myself on how to not deal in yes and no. That's where that comes from. If that makes sense.
So you find it difficult to say yes or no?
Oh no.
Oh,
Seeing that there's
you
only
want
yes
to
or
say
no.
yes or no, and then you have to go inside and go like, where do I stand on this question or this thought or what have you? Because maybe you haven't had enough processing time with it, like I'm hearing Caitlin say, and it's like, oh, can I get back to you on that question in 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 weeks? Is that what you're saying?
Not exactly.
Okay.
It's more of a lot of times I think in a my way or the highway type mentality. So if somebody's morals or somebody's anything just doesn't align with it, for many years I'd always just be like, all right, well that's their thing and it's not right, but whatever. And as I got older, and one of the things I try to work on is my truth and my yes doesn't mean that their truth and their yes is wrong. So I try to unpack, just take your word, what leads them to their truth, what leads me to my truth, and then just understand them both as separate truths. That's why I fight so hard for there's more than one yes and one no. There can be multiples.
You have to find the common ground on a topic, whether it's right or wrong. And I think that's what
Exactly.
he's trying to get to.
Exactly.
Yes. That's
I
very
like when people are thinking. I think that's what we've all done tonight.
Plenty of
Because
it.
what's that?
Plenty of it. I'm mentally exhausted.
Yeah, and I expect that. It's just like leaving it all out on the field. You would not be wanting me as your coach if you are into some sort of a sport. I will work your butt out and you will leave it all out on the field where you're supposed to. You're supposed to go to bed drained, right? If you weren't challenged mentally, physically throughout the day, physically meaning if you're a pro athlete, right? You want to work that body out to its max because people are paying you to be at your maximum each and every night. Like I'm really into basketball. So if I find somebody slacking in the basketball arena, they're not really putting in their all, they're going at 80%. If I was the owner of that team and I was paying that person money, I would expect them to give me 100%. Now their 100% might not be someone else's 100%, but I expect them to leave it all out on the field and go, yeah, I was really challenged today, Roy, and thanks for that because my body was challenged, my mind was challenged, right? And I don't do it to exert physical. I'm not a drill sergeant, right? Like a negative drill sergeant, because there's a lot of really good drill sergeants that are not like you might think they are, evil and really mean, and they're going to make you do stuff. No, they have to teach you to stay alive during combat. And sometimes they just have to say it a certain way because you're flaking out. And I wouldn't yell and scream at a person. I would just challenge them mentally. I would just challenge them physically. It's like, give me one more. You know what I'm saying? You got one more pull-up, one more push-up. And you're going to go to the showers and you're going to go, wow, I'm glad that Roy guy pushed me as my coach, right? Because you don't want a coach that says, oh, you don't want to do it? Oh, okay. I mean, what are you paying me? Personal trainer, stuff like that. I like pushing people, and I like doing it with love. And if you don't feel the love coming from me, then you just need to say, Roy, I don't feel the love. It sounds like my, third grade teacher or my dad from another, whatever era, time, because I call it Uncle Bob syndrome. I sound like somebody, look like somebody, walk like somebody in your life that you had a bad experience with. And so now you equate that to me or to anyone. and you have immediately said that person is evil. I can't have a relationship with that person because I already know they sound like a used car salesman, or they did this and I can't believe them. It's a trust issue. I think, Caitlin, you got into that earlier.
Yeah, trust is a big issue, and I'm working on that.
Yeah. So here's what I say about trust, because I ask people 5-10 minutes into meeting them, 5-10 weeks into meeting them, hey, do you trust me? Yes or no? So Caitlin, let me start with you. Do you trust me? Yes or no?
I trust you because you're taking the input and you're reflecting and saying, "Oh, I may have said this worse," and that's something that not many people do in my world. So I trust
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Carolyn, do you trust me? Yes or no?
Yes.
And Stephen, do you trust me?
So far, you've given me every reason to.
So I think that's the best approach. A lot of people say you got to earn trust. I say trust is either given or withheld.
Trust is given by, I would say trust is given to you by the way they treat you on your first impression.
And your first impression comes.
And the reason why I say that is because first impressions and a disabled person can change the way that somebody's going to treat you.
Correct.
And you guys don't know what that's like because
Correct.
you guys aren't in our shoes.
Correct.
So a first impression to me and someone like Carolyn is going to mean a lot more than somebody who's an able-bodied person who's used to making friends. We're not close. I guess we're not that experienced on it, and we have to trust a lot more in order to make sure that we don't get stabbed in the back later, because obviously we had experience with that.
Here's the thing that I would like to help all of you with. Trust should never be something you struggle with, whether you're abled, disabled, male, female, young, old. Here's what I believe. I believe when you meet another human being for the first time, whether in a group setting like this or whether one-to-one, that you should freely give your trust to them. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to give them the keys to your house and your car. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that you trust them at their word. Just like you just said, Caitlin. Whatever comes out of their mouth, like I'm meeting Stephen for the first time here. I've seen some of the stuff that he said in text. I trust him with whatever he's saying. I believe him. There's no reason for me not to believe him. It's like, you're lying, Stephen. And then now I meet him here face to face. We're having a conversation. I'm challenging him on his beliefs. I'm being challenged on mine, and we're having a discussion. So I don't believe, even after all that we went through tonight, that Stephen is lying to me, that he's going like, yeah, I'm just going to tell Roy what he wants to hear, or I'm just going to make this stuff up. I really don't believe it, but I want him to think this about me. I really believe, Stephen, I really believe that you have said everything tonight that came out of your mouth, that you believe it to be true. And that's who you are, and that's your genuineness, that's your authenticity. And I feel it and I believe it. And the same with the ladies, that they've told me nothing more than what they believe, and they've actually said it and shared it in a group setting like this, in a one-to-one setting. And the more we do this, the trust, it's not like you can trust more or trust less. You can trust with more, and you can trust with less, right? So if I decide to trust you with my car and you come back and wreck it, I ain't going to trust you with my car anymore. And that goes the same with certain topics. That goes the same with certain types of building the relationship, the friendship that I want to do with each and every one of you. I just want to give that opportunity to all of us to have a different type of environment and culture that we're used to, and to say, can I exhaust your brain? Because I really love doing that, Caitlin, believe me or not. And that's not a bad thing. If I've exhausted your brain, you've thought about things you've never thought before. You have people in your circles that are not sharing with you what I'm sharing with you, and that makes me feel good. So let's go around the horn, and we'll end tonight. Carolyn, you're first. What have you taken away from the conversation tonight that is going to either keep you from ever coming back or you're going to be even more jazzed about the conversation the next time because you realize you're going to get challenged even more by that Roy guy, at least that Roy guy, maybe other people too.
I realize that I like the discussion because I think through discussion, and especially through discussion about something like disability, you learn different things. Even between Caitlin and I, there's differences because we have different disabilities. So, and I think we all can learn from each other. And I think this is how learning happens: is when you discuss things and like to debate a point is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing and it's a healthy thing to have discussion. And I think we need more discussion in this world, unless this is my opinion and I am right.
I love it. Carolyn, thank you so much for that. Caitlin, yeah, same question.
What was the question again? I'm sorry. My brain is kind of freezing out on me.
Is you is or is you is not going to be back next week because either you got butt hurt or you got challenged in such a great way that you're going to go, you know what? I want to get that mental challenge again, either from that Roy guy or other people within the conversation because I really liked it, or this is just too much. I can't handle it and I'll just not be back.
I'll be back. The way that I take it is that just for somebody who is trying to mentally challenge me, try not to do a lot at once. Because otherwise I'm not going to be able to process it, and you won't
should
get
run.
anywhere.
Yeah, right. And you should run and say, guys, too much for me. I need self-care. I'm going to take a shower. Calgon, take me away.
Right.
I love that. I love that.
But I think that discussion's important. I think that's why the disabled community gets a bad rap. And a lot of people don't understand this is because they don't discuss you don't have to know our daily lives. Like, that's not what we're about. We just need you to know what you guys need to see to make us seem like we're everybody else. Because obviously there's something in somebody's minds in society that doesn't think that way.
Yes.
And I wish it didn't have to think it that way.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I want to break that blank, whatever you call that thing that's going on
barrier
out there. Yes. Whatever you call it, a stigma, whatever you call it. It's like, oh, you're disabled. Oh, you got autism. It's like right away in my mind, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I am limited in my conversation with you. I don't see you that way at all. I will challenge you I will go as deep as you want to go. And when you say, Roy, too much, it's like, oh, sorry. I will adhere to where your boundaries are for me because I will never push beyond. That's not love. Love is I push in a healthy way. I give you something to think about. I get your answer from you. And whether I agree with your answer or not, that's not the issue. The issue is I want to know, do you have a brain in your head? That's right. All I want to know, right? Love it, Caitlin. Thank you. And Stephen, what is your take on this? Roy, this is too much. Or you know what? Yeah, I love the challenge, and I'll be back. And maybe this is not my norm, but maybe it could be.
Oh yeah, I like that. It's just open discussion, and I think Carolyn said it right. She was like, it doesn't always have to be a opinion as yes or no or right or wrong or my way highway. It's healthy and fun to just like discuss and view all the different viewpoints. So I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what James just he's asking this question. So if somebody wants to go first, then let's discuss it as a team here. And when we're all exhausted, we'll end the show. So James says, Caitlin?
Isn't asking a broad question that is susceptible to many answers, then forcing a limitation to a yes or no, I think yes or no, in an end around towards asking your adhesion to your opinion. So I'm not understanding on the full end of where he's going for. Is he saying that asking a broad question wants you to get to where you're trying to have them perceive?
Okay, so I'll help you with that in just a second. So, Carolyn, do you understand? Because he's asking for a yes or no question. So how can you answer this, yes or no? He says, isn't asking a broad question, blah, 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 blah. And it's a question. He's asking a question, and the question has a yes or no answer, and then you can unpack it. But James is asking, isn't asking a broad question and then having that susceptible to many answers, which that's what confuses me, is because, yeah, why would you do that? Isn't that forcing a limitation to yes or no, an end around? Right, go ahead, Stephen.
Well, he's saying he's essentially asking, like, isn't it kind of maybe counterintuitive to ask a broad question, but then limiting it to yes or no.
So the answer is yes, right?
But isn't that his question? I think we're about to go into another runaround again.
Yeah, but James is asking a yes or no question. He says, isn't asking a broad question, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. The way he unpacked that, the answer is yes. Do you guys see that? So James, is that true? Your answer is yes? Because it wouldn't be no. If you ask a broad question and then you want to force somebody to say yes or no, because that's an oxymoron. It's like if it's a broad question, then there is no yes or no. And I would never ask a yes or no question to something that isn't yes or no. Is your name Stephen? Yes or no? Do you live on a planet called Earth? Yes or no? I would never ask you, like, explain life to me. Yes or no?
Sorry.
So James, I'm not quite sure what
thanks.
you're asking, but the answer to your question is yes. If you ask a broad question and want a yes or no, that is an oxymoron. That is self-refuting. Don't do that, ever. So yes. Okay, so wrapping things up, I would say that we need to understand why we want a connection with another human being. April has a calling on her life. God has called her to be a messenger with her message. And I hope that all of you caught it, and I'll say it very quickly. Her message is her son, Morgan. She had no idea that when she prayed and basically begged God for a child when she was 37 years old, actually when she was 36, because she had him when she was 37. And the doctors told her, no, you're never going to have a kid, and be prepared for a miscarriage if you ever get pregnant. And she received a child. She wanted a child so bad that she begged and prayed the Lord to give her one, and he gave her one. But she never expected him to be on the autism spectrum. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, I
now
get it.
that's her calling. Her calling is to show people her journey. He just turned 10 last month. So his journey, how he was as a little kid and how he is now. And before I go on, I was going to show this earlier. Let me see if it's still here. Yeah. Let me show you this really quick, because
Special needs
this is
and
good.
the channel and the
Yes.
connections we want to build, because that's where it starts. It doesn't start with the professionals. They have very little to do with what we're doing here.
Yes. I'm so jazzed.
So watch
You feel
Morgan
it?
in the background.
You should be, because
That's Morgan at age 6.
no sooner did you ask. We need to unpack that as well. So
Oh, there's so much to unpack tonight. Okay.
there is. Go for it.
Okay.
So this is how April showed up 4 years ago. Let me fast forward a little bit here. And now it's not going to fast forward. Okay. But anyway, this is what we were going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the beginning of how April and I first connected and how she showed up in live streaming. And you can see that it's quite different than how she shows up today. And Morgan was running around, and he had a lot of verbal stuff because he can't talk, he can't speak, but he's very loud, very bouncy, all over the place. And today, you wouldn't know, 4 years later, he's now 10, you wouldn't know that same little boy. He never does all that stuff anymore. He's pretty quiet. If you give him an iPad, he's just sitting there. But if you don't give him an iPad, he's got a bouncing ball. He gets his energy out on that. He may say a few things, hum a few things, but he's not as verbal and as loud as he was back then. What changed? A lot of things, and we can get into that. April has since divorced. There was things that were brought into the home by his father that, the surroundings, the environment, the culture. He responded to a lot of that stuff. He reacted to a lot of that stuff. And that's what I wanted to get into tonight, but it's okay. We can save it for the next time. I just wanted to show you that really, really quick, because that is Momo on the autism spectrum. Now, that doesn't mean that that's everybody. And
Correct.
Caitlin will attest to that. And she says, I may not have been like that. I don't know people like that, or I know people like that.
I've known
Worse or
people
better.
like that.
Right. And so my point in saying and sharing all of this stuff is now that I'm part of Momo's life and part of his life, I'm treating him differently, and I'm putting him in a different environment and culture than he's used to when his dad used to be in the house. He still sees his dad, of course, because they co-parent. But the house that he lives in, the majority of the time, it has my spirit, my demeanor, my seeing him as a young man on the spectrum, different from how his dad did. And April's made this analogy to me just a few weeks ago. And I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I just wanted to show you that your environment and culture dictates how you're going to act, react, respond, all of it. And the culture that I want to place here for all of you is one of love, one of openness, as you can speak. You can disagree with me. I want you to disagree with me if that's you being authentic. I don't want you to agree with me if, you got to agree with that Roy guy or he's going to let me not be into the seat and stuff. That's not me. I think you guys all know that. Stephen, that's not me, right? From the little that you already know me, you think that I'm like fair with everybody. Like I have an opinion. I have a moral. I have a truth. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to be me. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to throw stones at you. I'm still going to have a discussion with you to find out why you disagree. And, if we can't come to an agreement, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I still love you all. And this is what I wanted to share and show tonight, because there's a lot of people who walk on eggshells with other people. It's like, I can't say that because they're going to get hurt and they're not going to like me. And I want everybody to like me. And it's exhausting. I used to be like that.
I was like that as a child, but
Me too.
the problem was speech therapy also put that in my head, which was not healthy. But yeah, you have to learn to take away that. And I think a lot of people, it comes in their own timeline of when that's going to take away.
Absolutely. And I want to get to know you guys at your core level. How do you want to show up here? How do you want to feel comfortable here? And so on and so forth. So let me just ask Stephen this really quick, and then we'll see where it goes, and then we'll end it, because these conversations are just, they're amazing. It's like nobody wants to go home. Oh, wait, you guys are home.
I'm
Stephen,
like, we're home.
Exactly. Stephen, what is your environment and your culture within your own home? Are you a father? I don't even know. So let me ask you, are you a father? Are you a husband? And how, as a father and or a husband, or however, head of household, whatever, I don't know, you'll tell me, what is it that you set as, maybe a co-parent or a roommate or a what's the environment that you're most conducive to that says, okay, this is beyond what is good for me. I need to protect me, and here's some boundaries, blah, 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 whether it's a wife, whether it's a child, whether it's a roommate. Help me with that. Let's get to know Stephen a little bit more and what his environment is, his home environment. If you don't mind, because if you mind, just say pass.
Oh, no. I mean, that could probably be an in-depth conversation on another video, but I mean, no, it's just me. So I fly solo, and pretty much just do the treat others fairly type thing.
Golden rule.
That's my thing. Actually, I think I have a poster over there and has it on there, like treat the rules of the house. That's like treat others the way you want to be treated. So
yeah, that you can't go wrong there. Exactly, you can't go wrong there. I love that. Carolyn, what's your home life like? Is it the culture, the environment? Is it conducive to you growing and being the person, or is there chaos? Is it like calm enough but yet challenging enough, or is there chaos? I guess that's what I'm really asking. And you don't have to say either. You can say pass if I'm getting too personal. Let me unmute you, hon. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
It's a calm environment because I've always been accepted for who I am in my family, with the understanding that yes, I might have to do things different, but it's not a bad thing. My parents never made anything into a bad thing. It was just kind of the way things were, but I was always held to the expectation of everybody else in the household, which was that I had to be polite, I had to be kind, and I had to, no matter what anybody else thought of me, I have to think of myself as a positive, productive person, because it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. And that's the environment that I grew up in. Like, Roy, did you understand that, what I said?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So that was a good thing, yes?
Yes.
I love it. And Carolyn, remind us again, you're in your mid-30s, right?
Yes.
Good. So I love that. And so obviously Carolyn is blank in her surroundings. And I would say insert any positive word you want, because I don't hear chaos on what she just said. So good on you and good on your family, because that's the way it's supposed to be. But Carolyn, you realize that that's not everyone with your same situation, right? Your same situation, there may be people in chaos.
Yes.
And I want to help people who are in those situations to maybe get some relief from that by coming here into this environment. And not just with me in April, but I want this to be like different rooms 24/7 without me in April. Like when we're sleeping and stuff, the people can still come here, but have the atmosphere of the net friending movement, of the net friending people search engine, and find each other and go like, yeah, I want to be in conversation with these people, and I want to be friends with these people, because you get a different kind of blank. You get a different kind of vibe here than you do from your home life. That's what I want to do. So if that wasn't apparent to y'all, I hope it is. And I want people to come here and challenge me. It's like, Roy, I don't believe a word that's coming out of your mouth, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree, and if you can't agree to disagree and you want to kill me, then somebody's got a problem. I think.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, what about yourself? Your home life? Yeah, all of it, environment and culture.
It's changed. Growing up, I had a pretty loving household. Everyone told me that I was able to write my own story, and that if I feel too challenged, that it's okay to feel that way. Very positive households. In terms of chores, it was a little bit more difficult doing the everyday routine stuff, because for me, sometimes you had to repeat it multiple times, but at time, I was able to do it on my own. But once the family turned, when I was 16, our parents divorced, and that changed our household quite a bit. So we have one side of the family who we don't talk to anymore, just because it's too negative. It's too negative now.
Wow.
But the ones that we do live with now are still a loving environment, and I think that maybe in time I'll be able to talk to the other person, because maybe the emotions was too much at the time to handle it straight up front. You know, divorce is never easy, and it's not something that you can take care of easily. So, and especially with kids, it's interesting. And I knew that there was something wrong, because I was just a detailed oriented person. I just realized that she wasn't answering the phone, you know, things like that. But I would say like 95% of the time, it was a loving and happy household.
That's awesome. So, one last question for everyone. Do you see that people need information, knowledge, and wisdom that you have for relationships? Maybe friendships, maybe sibling ships. You know, there might be people within your midst in circles that you have at work or wherever, and there's family feuds going on, siblings, or maybe there's parental feuds going on. Do you see yourself as someone who can go to that person, and whether they're asking you or not, for not necessarily your advice, but for perspective? It's like, I have this issue in my life with my brother, with my sister, with my parent, with my whomever, my in-law, and they come to you and they go, what would your perspective be? What would you do in my situation? Not that I'm going to do it necessarily. So just a quick yes or no all the way around. Would you be able to detect, oh my goodness, this person is so Debbie Downer all the time, or so down, there's got to be a relationship issue in there somewhere. Let me dig a little deeper and see if I can help that person. Stephen, we'll start with you. Is there Is there that thought in your mind that you go, I do have the goods. I do have a little bit of knowledge and wisdom about relationships. Maybe I should help this person, whether you're my friend or not. Do you see that? Yes or no? And then go ahead and unpack it.
Oh no, yes, but no need to unpack.
Yeah. Carolyn, do you have that? Where you can say, hey, I would love to take this person aside and say, you know what? Here's what I see. Is there something I can do? Is there a relationship that I might be able to help you with? Do you do that? Yes or no? And then you can unpack it all the way you want.
No, I don't do that in my family because I don't feel like it's necessarily my place to offer that advice, but if they're asking me directly, I will share my opinion.
Awesome. I think that's wise. Thank you for sharing that. So I get to know you a little bit better. I get to know Stephen a little bit better because, I don't think most people would ask these types of questions about each other. So I know I'm good. You're not going to help me with my issues of life if I tell you like I have a sibling issue. You're not. I'm not. Carolyn is not somebody that's going to come to me. Is what I'm thinking. But now I know. Oh, I want Carolyn's opinion. Let me ask her. Is that true, Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay, I love that. Anything else?
I'm just careful to interject my opinion unsolicited on other people because I always try to listen and get as much knowledge about the situation before having an opinion because you don't necessarily know everything else that someone else is going through. You
Right.
only know what you observe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You come in the middle of the movie and you don't know what happened beforehand. And if you were in that same situation, you might even act worse. I totally get that. You're a wise woman, Carolyn. I got to say that. Thank you for that. Caitlin, how about yourself?
I'm the type of person who respects emotional boundaries. I won't be a type of person that would approach somebody if somebody's getting bullied, unless if it was to the point where it was hurting the person, then I would be saying, okay, cut it out. But in terms of somebody asking me, if I don't know their situation beforehand, it's really hard for me to make an opinion because I don't want to put something on the table that isn't all around understood. So like, for example, my family's divorce is something that I just don't want to talk about. It's like something where it's between the parents and I don't want to put any opinion up between either one of my parents on it.
That's wise. Yeah,
so
because
there's some things where I keep total boundaries on
Sure.
and don't say anything unless if I'm being asked. And there's some things like social situations where somebody's not treated right is where I stand my ground and just say, hey, quit it.
Absolutely. And for myself, up until like 23, 24 years ago, I was the shyest person on the planet. You would not get anything out of me. You would not know in-depth things about me, even if you asked me, because I had gotten burnt before. So I had not yet learned to understand people are going to burn you. If you're going to put yourself out there, if you want to have friends, if you want to make a difference in the world, if you want to share your message, which I have a message. I had a very, very painful divorce first time round with my two daughters. They were 4 and 1, and I wanted to kill myself. And I wouldn't tell people that for a long time. I thought about suicide that night, and I just couldn't go through with it because I didn't own a gun, wasn't going to take pills, wasn't going to slit my wrist. And so I just thought about it for a nanosecond and said, no, I'm not doing that. And then I said, I'm going to just go through this pain. And it was very painful. I mean, physically, I was bent over, couldn't work, this, that, and the other thing, if you hear my story. And I'm not here to get sympathy from people. I'm just telling you, this was my story. I came out of a very loving household. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My mother survived the Holocaust. She was in Hitler's concentration camp for 2 years. She saw her mom die in front of her eyes. She told me at the age of 8, Roy, forgive everybody that comes along and hurts you because I forgave Hitler. You can forgive people. And she told me exactly how to do it and the mindset to have. And I to this day, you're forgiven. If you want to hurt me and take advantage of me and call me names and say all kinds of bad things about me and talk behind my back, I can't stop you. I don't got that kind of power. but I'm going to forgive you, because forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. You know, forgiveness has been said, I don't know who said it. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You get caught up in all this stuff. It affects you personally, health wise, everything else. And so I want to be a friend to people. And if they see reciprocation in their life, it's like, hey, yeah, that Roy guy's not too bad. He challenged me on 2 or 3 things, and he told me he would stop because I just couldn't handle it. And if I know better, I'm going to do better. I love Maya Angelou's quote. She says, guys, do the best you can. And when you know better, do better. Because somebody just said, what you're saying is not good for my health. Please don't say that again, or please don't do that again. And I still want to be your friend, or I still want to be friendly towards you and are in a befriending mode. I want to be a part of what you're doing, this movement, this search engine, this community, this tribe, whatever you're doing, because yeah, I see you're just starting and other people are going to come in and we're bringing people in. And that's what it's all about. I just want people to be loving to other people. And love is not a feeling. I may not feel like loving you right now, but I'm going to do good for you. You know, sometimes as parents, haven't you heard them say, I'm going to kill my kid? You know, out of anger or whatever. They don't really want to kill their kid. You understand what I'm saying? So, but they feel like it. I feel like, you know, doing this or doing that. And some parents just, I've never said that. I know better than to say that, you know, but some parents, they come to their end. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle the situation, right? Because nobody in their family or nobody in their circles has taught them parenting skills or relationship skills or friendship skills. And all they can do is just get angry and pound people. And that's what battered wives and battered husbands. I was a battered husband, believe it or not. I have scars to prove it. My wife, my first wife, was very, very physical. And she threw an ashtray at my head from 20 feet away in the living room. And thank God it missed me and put a hole in the wall. And that was the last time we had those kinds of situations in front of me, because she was that angry. So anyway, her anger stemmed from abuse in her own family. I never knew about it. And you can go back and back and back. You guys know the drill. So all I'm saying here is I understand that I don't know the whole story. I'm coming into meeting you here at age 22, at age 42. I don't know when you were 2. I don't know when you were 12. That's something I want to learn. And if you're willing to share that, not only with me, but other people here, you watch what kind of relationships are going to build. You watch what kind of health is going to be restored for you. Because I believe that if you're a lonely person or an isolated person, even if you have lots of people around you, you may not have those fulfilling relationships where you can speak your mind, go deep with someone, and understand yourself better. If I invest 15 minutes, I didn't say spend, if I invest 15 minutes with you or 15 hours with you and you don't walk away a better person, a better feeling person, a better thinking person, it's like, wow, he really shared some stuff with me. I didn't think about that before. Or, man, I disagreed with him vehemently, but he let me. He agreed to disagree with me and he still loves me. It's like, that's what I want, guys. That's what I want. And if you feel it too, then you'll bring other people into the fold. And I'll bring other people into the fold. And who knows, the person I may bring in, the person you may bring in, that might be somebody's spouse. That might be somebody's best friend. That might be somebody's business partner. And you guys go on to do some amazing things. And that's what I want here. And that's what I wanted tonight's show to be about, is to just share April's and mine's story in the videos that we had and so on and so forth. But because we have you wonderful people who want to jump in and take a seat with us, I prefer that. I'm going to give you carte blanche ahead of doing all that other stuff on the recorded side. It's for times when maybe we don't have somebody in the seats. But this is what I want to do. And I hope all of you are going to walk away that are in the seat here and listening out there, a different person with a different perspective of not only that Roy guy, but everybody here that's like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. That might be a little different. It may be a little painful. Yeah, I might not do it in 20 seconds. I might have to take a year, but I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to support you, Caitlin, for a whole year. If it's going to take that long.
Out of it.
Yeah. If it's going to take that long, then I'll support you in the whole thing. But, you know, there's other people that want to be friends. I would suggest maybe give them an hour, give them a half hour, give them 15 minutes. And you may want to, okay, I'm not going to wait a year. I'm going to do it in 20 seconds. You never know. So with that, guys, I'm going to close out. But anybody have any final words, a quote that you love, or just some words of wisdom, and then we'll close out. Gosh, we've gone 2.5 hours, guys. It's amazing, and everybody's still here. What's up with that? Wow. So, ladies first. Let's see. Let me unmute Carolyn. Carolyn, any words of wisdom? Any final thoughts?
It's nice to be nice. And
I love it. Yes.
It's free.
I love it. I love it. Carolyn, you were here early. You couldn't wait to get here. I love that about you. Thank you so much for supporting April and myself. I want to say that. She was in the green room, I think, a half an hour before time. She was here before I got here, and I love that. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Caitlin, final thoughts. You got a one-liner? Got a words of wisdom?
If you can dream it, you can do it.
There you go.
Sorry, had to quote Walt Disney.
Had to. I love it. Had to. Love it. Yes, absolutely. And if you need somebody to hold your hand, come here, because you can't do it by yourself. I don't think anybody did anything by themselves, including Walt Disney. You need a running partner. You need a bud. You need somebody that believes you, and when you fall down, they're there to pick you up. So I totally believe that. Two are better than one, and you need the buddy system. You can't do stuff by yourself. Stephen, final thoughts, words of wisdom.
No, it was fun. I don't think I could beat Caitlin's phrase there because.
Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, but no, it was good. It was fun. It's a good conversation, and I like the dialogue. That's why I come back every week.
I was gonna say you did quote Yoda, so there isn't really much.
Yeah, he did. He did know the Yoda quote. Yes. Yeah, he did. And so my one-liner is, the way you see a person is the way you will treat that person, and especially if that person is you. Treat yourself well, because it's been said, if most people treat their friends the way they treat themselves, they wouldn't have any friends. So remember, you can't make a friend, so be a friend. Each and every day, each and every moment of every day, even if that person hates you, because you will receive benefits from that, because if you're going to repay evil for evil, not so much. All right, guys, thanks a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and close out. So until next week, next Tuesday, same time, net friending at 9:00 p.m. every Tuesday. Thanks a lot, guys. Good night.
Have a magical night, everyone.
Yeah.